So fellas, Baldy's been busy over the past couple of weeks announcing some fights, as well as some rumoured matchups that are going to be taking place later on this year and early 2026. Starting off with one of the rumoured matchups in Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje, which has been rumoured for UFC 323 in December this year, December 13th, for Ilia Topuria's first defence in the lightweight division. I've already voiced my opinions on this fight before, and I just feel like it's the dumbest title fight he could do for Ilia Topuria, and I really hope it isn't true, because out of all the possible contenders you got for Topuria, with Paddy Pimblett, Arman Tsarukyan, and I guess Justin Gaethje, Gaethje has the least sell out of all those guys, at least with Paddy Pimblett. At least he's got the build-up, you know, they've had a build-up that's been going since 2022. It's a massive fight, it would be a super fight, one of the biggest, if not the biggest fight he can make right now in the UFC. Paddy versus Topuria would be a massive fight, and to be fair, even though people might say Paddy's going to get starched, at least it's a new style for Ilia rather than one of these strikers or low fight IQ guys like Charles Oliveira. And then you've got Arman Tsarukyan as well. Okay, maybe Tsarukyan might not be as big as a Paddy Pimblett, but at least with Tsarukyan he's the most deserving and he's the toughest test. He presents a wrestling threat that no other contender rarely presents. He'd wrestled Topuria. He's like I said, the most deserving as well. And to be fair, even he's building a rivalry with Topuria online as well, so at least you can sell the Tsarukyan fight too. But with Gaethje, you have absolutely nothing to sell with Justin Gaethje. If there was a fighter on the roster right now that you made in like some sort of factory that would be the most beatable fighter for Ilia Topuria, it would be Justin Gaethje. This chinny, brawly fighter that engages in scraps, and it's just like he fights so carelessly. That is the ideal fight for Ilia Topuria. He is the human highlight reel for Ilia Topuria. He's Justin Gaethje. There's no selling that fight. There's no rivalry like there is with Paddy Pimblett. There's no tough test. There's no way you can sell the fight because Topuria starched him in the first round. There's no intrigue there. Like I said, even Tsarukyan, he's been calling out Ilia online. They've got a bit of a rivalry brewing up, and at least with Tsarukyan, he's the most tough test, and like I said, he's the toughest style. Paddy versus Topuria, a super fight, it would be generationally massive. It would bring the casuals in. You've got a super fight there, but what do you actually have with Justin Gaethje? He isn't a threat for Topuria. He's he's probably one of the most easy matchups in this division for Ilia Topuria. He'd get starched in the first. He'd have a brawl with Topuria. Topuria would counter with a massive right hand and knock him out cold, and everyone would be sat there surprised. I feel like it's a waste of a defense for Ilia Topuria. The only circumstance where this is acceptable is if Arman and Paddy are both unavailable, which doesn't seem to be the case online. So that's been rumored for 323. I'm really hoping it's not the case, because Topuria versus Gaethje just doesn't intrigue me at all. Waste of a title fight. So many better options. And we've also had one that I hope is not true. Adesanya versus Costa 2, which is apparently in the works for UFC 321 in Abu Dhabi on the Aspinall versus Garn card. Again, I'm hoping this isn't true, because if it is, that's another stupid rematch. Obviously, we've seen this fight before back in 2020 when Adesanya was the middleweight champion, and it was arguably Adesanya's best and most dominant performance. He beat the absolute crap out of Paulo Costa. This wasn't even slightly competitive. It was Adesanya's best performance and Costa's worst performance, to the point where Costa would never recover after this for the next couple of years. Adesanya absolutely beat the crap out of Costa on the feet, picked him apart, got the finish. There's no sell in a rematch for Adesanya versus Costa 2. I don't know why this has been rumored, and again, I'm hoping it's just a fake rumor and this isn't really going down, because Adesanya's on a 3-fight losing streak. Costa's finally picked up a win, and you want to chuck him in there with a guy that's beaten him before. Like, if Adesanya wins, if Adesanya gets a win over Paulo Costa, breaks the losing streak, what does he really do? He does nothing for Adesanya's career, because he's beating a guy that he's beat before, so it doesn't push him any further. And even if he goes to a close decision and beats Costa, you can't really top the last performance he had over him, and it shuts down Costa's rise for nothing. Costa's finally got the first win he's been waiting for in a long time. He's actually looked good as well. You chuck him in there with a guy that's beat the crap out of him before. What's the point? You know what I mean? It's just shutting down the rise of Costa for nothing. And if Paulo Costa does win and he does beat Adesanya, like, fair play, they're now 1-1, but you've beat Izzy on a 3-fight losing streak. Doesn't really mean much to beat Izzy at this stage in his career. Like, yes, it pushes Costa close to contendership, but doesn't really mean anything by beating Adesanya. So again, this is only a rumor, this isn't true or anything, but I'm hoping it isn't going to be true, because I feel like there's so many better options for Costa as well. He's finally got a good win. Give him Trickus, give him Cannonier, give him MVP, give him the loser of Imavov and Barallo. Why would you throw him back in there with Adesanya? A pointless rematch. I have the same opinion about Adesanya versus Strickland too. Why are we booking these pointless rematches in the middleweight division when there's so many fresh contenders that could be getting put to the top? So I'm hoping that's not true, but if it is true, I mean, it's a waste of a fight. Adesanya versus Costa 2, it's just going to be a shit sell of the fact that they had the first time around back in 2020. Anyway, UFC Vancouver. The UFC going back to Vancouver for a fight, and this might actually be the first stacked Canada card we've ever seen in the UFC. The main event is going to be Anthony Hernandez versus Ridder, which is actually a sick main event. I'm looking forward to this. They've both competed recently. Ridder 4-0 in the UFC. Looked good in pretty much every performance. Obviously beat Robert Whittaker out a month ago in his biggest win yet. And like I said, he's probably about a win away from a title fight. And you've got Anthony Hernandez as well, who's on one of the biggest winning streaks in the UFC right now. Just destroyed Roman Dolidze. Literally like 2 weeks ago, so he's recently fought as well. Already back with another fight booked. So this is a massive fight for the middleweight division. And somebody said this on Twitter as well, and I agreed. There's no rank sitting. They're not waiting a year and praying for a title shot. Both of these guys, you can, call them boring, you can call you what they want, but they both have a very similar kind of mindset to fighting. They're just going to fight anyone, anytime, any place, and that's what I respect about it. And I love these matchups where it's like two guys who were both on the rise. That's why I like Imavov and Barallo, and that's why I like this fight for the middleweight division. I don't know if it's a #1 contender fight because, like I said, we've got Imavov and Barallo coming up in Paris, but this is definitely, I feel like the winner of this fight has to eventually get a title fight. Hernandez is, like I said, about a fight away. Ridder is a fight away, and it's a tough fight to pick as well. Ridder has looked good in the UFC so far. Hernandez has been on an absolute rise with better with every performance. I'm leaning towards Hernandez winning this, but again, that's a sick fight. It's a main event of Fight Night in Vancouver, a sick main event coming up in the UFC, probably a #1 contender fight. These are the fights we need, not these fights between washed up guys like I was just talking about with Adesanya and Costa. Ridder Hernandez, sick fight for the middleweight division. We need more of those fights. And the common event is going to be Marlon Vera versus Ayman Zahabi. Yeah, I think this makes sense. Marlon Vera's had a bit of a fall off. He had the title fight with, obviously, Sean O'Malley last year, and I think he's down a 2 or 3 fight losing streak, just lost to Figure. Zahabi, coming off that dodgy win over Jose Aldo, beat him, but arguably lost the fight. I thought he lost the fight. It makes sense, though, and to be honest, I think it's going to be quite a good fight. They've got a very similar style. Two kickboxers, both very dangerous with the kicks. I'm intrigued to see how they're both going to perform. I'm kind of leaning towards Zahabi because I feel like Vera hasn't really looked good in any of his recent performances. He got the shit kicked out of him by O'Malley. He got beaten comfortable by Figueiredo. His last win was, what was it, Pedro Munoz as well. So I'm leaning towards Zahabi winning this fight, but it makes sense. Step up for Zahabi, step down for Vera. Two good kickboxers. Again, getting Zahabi in Canada, I think that makes sense for a common event. You've also got Kevin Holland versus Mike Malott. What is it? Is this Kevin Holland's 5th or 6th fight this year? I think it might be his 5th fight this year, so he's kind of tying the record for the most fights in a single year in modern history. But yeah, this fight makes sense as well. Mike Malott, again, probably one of the better Canadian fighters on the roster, on the rise, just got a good knockout at UFC 315. And Kevin Holland, one of the most inconsistent fighters. People are 1 minute saying that Kevin Holland could become a legit contender at welterweight. Next minute, he's getting knocked out nearly by Daniel Rodriguez. But I think the matchmaking makes sense. Kevin Holland staying active. I'm going to lean towards Mike Malott winning this fight. More well-rounded, looked good with his most recent performance as well. So leaning towards Malott winning this. Again, getting Malott in Canada, but that's also on the Vancouver card. And some other fight announcements as well. We've got Patricio Pitbull versus Lozin Kieta, which is really weird to see take place in the UFC because obviously Patricio Pitbull was always kind of classed as the greatest fighter outside the UFC, this Bellator champion, one of the best fighters to never join the UFC. He comes over to the UFC, has an embarrassing performance against Yair Rodriguez, and he's finally picked up a win over Dan Ige, but again, pretty weak performance that I don't think much people are impressed by. And Lozin Kieta, double champion in Octagon, one of the better fighters outside of the UFC, again, similar to how Pitbull was. So he's on a big winning, well, he's on a winning streak as well, 16-1 of a record. So I'm kind of looking forward to this fight, but again, it's weird to see a fight like this in the UFC. A year ago from now, if you'd have told someone that Pitbull versus Kieta would have taken place in the UFC, I don't think anyone would have believed you. So I'm intrigued to see this fight, leaning towards Pitbull because you can't really trust anybody coming from outside the UFC these days. But good fight. If you're into organizations outside the UFC, it's going to be quite big. And a very similar matchup to that is Patchy Mix as he takes on Jacob Wicklax. Yeah, this is a very similar matchup as well. Obviously, Patchy Mix, similar to Pitbull, was hyped up outside the UFC. One of the best bantamweights outside the UFC. He comes over to the UFC and gets performs embarrassingly against Mario Batista, where he lost all of his hype. And he's going to be taking on Jacob Wicklax, who is a champion in KSW. He seems to have a pretty good record outside the UFC. Again, very similar to Pitbull versus Kieta, where it's kind of like two guys who has looked good outside the UFC coming over to the UFC. So you've got to respect the UFC. You know, they've been going ham on signings this year from fighters outside of the UFC. None of them seem to be succeeding, but we'll have a look in this one. If Wicklax can do something big against Patchy Mix, I mean, maybe it's impressive, but again, Patchy Mix, based on his first performance in the UFC, didn't really look too good. Anyway, UFC Rio. I'm a bit late to this because the main event was announced a few weeks back, but I thought I'd go over the card. Obviously, main event being Oliveira versus Fiziev, and we've got a couple other fights on this card that I'm kind of intrigued with. And I'll start off with Oliveira versus Fiziev. I know I'm quite late to the announcement, but I haven't really had a chance to speak on this fight. Yeah, like a lot of people, I'm worried for Oliveira in this matchup because, I mean, last month or 2 months ago, whenever it was, he just got knocked out by Ilia Topuria. Brutally knocked out by Topuria, head bouncing off the canvas, and he's already booked in a couple of months' time against Rafael Fiziev, who's arguably just had a career best performance as he whooped Bahamondes, and he's one of the biggest stylistic threats to Oliveira because of how good his stand-up is. To be fair, maybe Fiziev isn't as dangerous as people are making him out to be. He is a bit of a decision guy, and the feet kind of breaks people down, doesn't really get the KOs, or at least he hasn't recently, but still a bit of a weird matchup for Oliveira. He's coming back very soon, but I'm interested in the fight. You know, it's a step down for Oliveira away from the title picture. Big opportunity for Fiziev. They're shoving him back into contendership. I do kind of feel bad for Fiziev in the sense that he never really seems to get like just like middle of the pack matchups. He's either borderline top 15 guys or top contenders. There's no in between for Fiziev, but I mean, he's performing against, like when he performed against Gaethje, he didn't look too bad. So looking forward to that main event. We've also got Figueiredo versus Montel Jackson on the card, which I think makes sense. It's a step down for Figueiredo. I would like to see Figueiredo think about retirement soon, but they're pushing Montel Jackson. Makes sense. You've also got Luque versus Ponzinibbio. This would have been massive about 5 years ago. 2 washed up welterweights. I'm leaning towards Luque by submission. And there's some other good fights in there. Big fight in the heavyweight division. Denise versus Pinto. Petrino versus Peterson. Filo versus Carpenter at 125. It's shaping up to be a decent fight night in Brazil. The UFC haven't gone to Brazil for a while, so decent card. Looking pretty good. Getting a lot of Brazilian talent out there. Looks like he's going to be quite good. Now, I thought I'd talk about a signing as well from the UK. The UFC have recently signed Nathan Fletcher over to the UFC. If you don't know who Nathan Fletcher is, he's like one of the best regional fighters from Cage Warriors in the UK right now. Undefeated. I think he's 13-0 or something like that. He's a training partner of Paddy Pimblett, and like I said, he's one of the most hyped up fighters on the regional scene in the UK. Bit of a striker, good personality coming over to the UFC, and I feel like it's been a matter of when, not if, he's going to be signed to the UFC. And apparently he's got a fight booked later on this year. I think it said December as well, which he needed to happen. You can't get this guy in the Contender Series. He's past that now. He's been signed to the UFC, new prospect in the UFC. But those are just some fight answers I thought I'd give my opinion about. Some rumoured fights that, again, I hope are not taking place. I hope we don't see Topuria, Gaethje, and Adesanya, Costa, because those are fights we don't need in 2025. But let me know your thoughts on some of these matchups, and yeah, thank you for watching.